carousels are still killing it on social media. Just a few months ago, Buffer reported that Instagram carousels get the highest engagement rate out of any social media posts. And of course, with TikTok now allowing picture posts, and even on YouTube communities, you can post carousels. Carousels are here to stay, and they work for a number of reasons. First of all, because they keep people on your account. People scroll through multiple of those slides, and that means they stay longer, which is great for the algorithm, and it increases engagement. Secondly, they give you more space to be able to tell a story, to show a before and after, or even a tutorial. They're incredibly flexible and incredibly powerful to use. And lastly, often your second and third posts will appear in the Instagram scroll if people haven't already clicked on the first one. So it gives you more chances of getting in front of more people. What if we combine video and carousel posts? Why not have the best of both worlds? In today's video, I'm going to show you 5 really simple ways to use motion and video in your carousel posts to increase engagement and really stand out. And of course, we're going to do it all in Canva with style. Repurposing horizontal format videos can be a little tricky when you're trying to fit it to the vertical video format of most social media, especially when it's talking head videos like this. Sometimes the crop doesn't work, or you lose information, or you're just terrifyingly closely zoomed in on someone's face. And nobody needs that in HD, I promise you. But there are other ways to do it that not only help you repurpose that video more easily, but help you stand out from the rest of the crowd. And that brings us to the first way that you can use video and animation in a simple way to make the most of your carousel posts. For number one, let's just start with a plain Instagram post that I've added a colored block to just to add a little bit of interest. And then I've got a text box that's going to be used for a heading. Now for this, I want to repurpose some horizontal video that I've created before. So I'm going to go to my uploads, and you can see here I've got a video that is 32 seconds long. And if I just click that or click and drag it into this slide, it will insert it, but it will also readjust the timing of this slide or this page to fit the whole video. What I would ordinarily do is to then trim this video to the section that I want just for this page or for this slide in the carousel. So I'll go to the little scissor icon up here, click on it, and then I can listen and trim this so that it starts where I want it to start and it ends where I want it to end. So you can see now that section is just 7 seconds, it says. So if I hit done, you'll see that it has already readjusted the timing of that slide to just fit that video. Now I could obviously just play through, and this could be my first slide. It looks a bit different to what everyone else is doing. It's not vertical video, but it obviously gives you more space to play with. What I'm going to do though is I'm just going to crop it a little by clicking and dragging this handle, moving its center, and then I'm going to double click so that I can move the video within that frame to center myself. And actually I noticed it's a little bit at an angle, so I am going to adjust that to fix it. So there we go, now we have the video on that page, and that's looking pretty good already. Just to add a bit of interest, I'm going to go to border style, change the corners to about 15 points for a rounded corner, and then I'm also going to add a border of about 6, which I'm going to make white. And so that just helps it stand out a little more. To add a bit more interest, I'm going to go to my element and I'm going to type in shadow, and I'm just going to use this first shadow that comes up. I'm going to just resize it to fit that box, slide it down a little, adjust the transparency, and then using the position and layer tool, I'm going to move it behind the video. So that just adds a little bit of depth with that shadow and makes it a little more interesting. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to type in video play, and I'm going to see if I can find some video controls like these. And I'm going to put them underneath my video. So these are like play buttons, but I'm actually going to change it to a white so it doesn't stand out quite so much as the dark. And that just adds a little bit of fun, makes it a little bit more interesting. Now already this is looking good for us. You can see I've put in some guides so I know where it will crop when it's cut to a square on the grid. So if this is going to be the first page of a carousel, I can tell that nothing's going to be cropped or cut off that's important for people to have access to. But if I just go back and hit play now, you can see that that looks pretty good, and it's a different, unusual way of presenting a video or repurposing a video rather than just making it into the 16:9 story size. Another reason I like this format is because the way that I've laid it out, I've got a bit of space underneath it. Now obviously I can use that for a call to action or some explainer text, but the other thing that you could do is you could export this slide as a video and then use whatever video software you use to add captions, and you can put the captions in that space. So it means they don't overlay the video, it doesn't look messy. You've actually got place there for it, and it looks really nice and tidy. So if I wanted to just show you what that's going to look like, I'm going to add in a text box, and I'm just going to paste in some text, and then I'm going to resize it. And then to make it look like a subtitle would look or captions would look, I'm going to go to Effects, and I'm going to add a background. I'm just going to make that background white, but I'm going to take the transparency down a bit, and I'm going to make sure that the roundness is down so that it's got sort of sharp corners, and make it a bit larger. Of course, you can do whatever captions you like, but it just shows that you've got space there, it doesn't crowd the video, and it's an easy way of repurposing this. Now for carousel slides, and on Instagram you can use up to 10. You can use 10 videos, 10 images, or a combination of those. So to be able to use one of these as one of those slides in a carousel, even if it's a video slide like this, you would need to just export it as a video. And then when you're adding your carousel slides, you would add a video instead of a picture. So it's really easy. The usual way that you would do it in Canva, you just would go to Share, Download, make sure it's on MP4 video, and then just click Download to your preferred space or wherever you're saving it to. Let's move on to number 2. So this one is a really interesting one to have fun with, and this is basically creating a carousel within a carousel. So again, this is something that we're ultimately going to export as a video file, and we're going to then use it as one of our slides within a carousel. So I've started just with a frame, which I've given slightly rounded corners, and I've put a shadow behind it so that it adds a little bit of depth and interest. I'm going to select both of those and group them, and then what I'm going to do is just resize them and duplicate that so that I have 3 of them. Now, of course, you could do as many as you want, but I'm just using 3. I'm just going to go to my brand photos, and I'm going to swap out a couple of these images so that they are not all the same image. Now that I've got those images in, I'm going to select these and I'm going to group them as well. And then I am going to enlarge it so that only one features on the page at a time. If you need to zoom out, just do that using the slider, or you can use Command or Control and your minus key. And I'm just going to enlarge this so that it shows just one of them, but you can see that there are others slightly off screen. So that just teases people that they know that there are something there that they're going to be able to see in a second. Next thing I'm going to do is just copy and paste that group to the next slide and to the third slide. So we have 3 slides that are exactly the same. Now on the first one, I'm going to drag in a guide so that I know where the left-hand side of this image is, and I'm going to start by dragging everything to the left so that it's the first image we see, and then it moves to the middle image, and then on the third slide I'm going to click and drag so it moves to the last image. Now I'm going to just add a match and move animation between these slides, and then if we play through, you'll see that it actually creates a moving slideshow within this carousel video. And this is just a fun way of adding images into a carousel that makes it a little unusual. People are not used to seeing carousels within carousels, and it can add a lot of fun and add a bit of an interactive feel. And to make that feel even more interactive, what I'm going to do is go back to my elements, and I'm going to type in arrow. I'm going to scroll down until I find an arrow in a circle like this one. I'm going to bring it in, resize it, and I'm going to place it on the bottom here, duplicate it, and make it look like these are left and right buttons that somebody could use to progress or to move this slideshow, even though it's just a video. Now, if I just copy and post those onto the other slides so that they are there all the time, if I hit play now, we start with that slide, we move to the middle slide, and then after a couple of seconds, we move to the last slide. The next thing you would do is just export this as a video, and that becomes one part of your carousel. Before we go any further, if you are interested in learning how to use Canva like a professional designer and what it's really capable of, then if you go to the link that's on the screen right now or in the description below the video, you can sign up to my Meaningful Creations newsletter. Every week I send out a newsletter that has a link to new tutorials and free resources that are available, and I also talk about some of what I've experienced and some of the great creators that I discover around the world. I'd love you to be part of that community. I ask for feedback and for ideas about new tutorials. It's a free newsletter, so just go to that link, hit subscribe, and I would love to hear from you. Number 3 is an even simpler way of adding some interest with movement. So here I have a slide that's actually one of the slides from my Stone social media templates, and I've just added this little text box here that says scroll for more. And this is so that if I have an image on the front of my carousel, people know that there are more slides to look for. Now, most people will be able to tell, but just in case, we want to make sure that they definitely see it and they know that it's there. And a way to draw attention to it is, again, to use something like an arrow, but to filter by animated only. Now you can see it gives us a whole lot of options, and depending on what your brand is and what your style is, you could choose one that works for you. I'm going to probably choose something like this circular one here. I'm going to import it, and I'm just going to make it smaller and put it in the corner here and align it with my scroll for more button. Now you can see that's just very subtle, but it just encourages people to click. And if you export this slide now as a video, you can make it as long as you want. And when people see it on your screen or on the Instagram feed, they will see this little icon that moves that encourages them to scroll for more. It's a really simple thing, but it makes such a difference when you just use a subtle animation like this to attract people's attention and to help convey your message or help convey what action you want them to take. For number 4, I've brought that same slide in from my Stone social media template collection, and I've also got another slide after it. So these are the 2 slides I'm going to have as number 1 and number 2 in my carousel. Another way of drawing attention to the fact that there are more slides after this one, if this is the first one, is this really clever little animation that gives people kind of a peek. It shows them that there is another slide coming up that it wants to be seen. And the way that we do that is we're going to go to the second slide, and we're going to use a really helpful function in Canva, which a lot of people don't know about. We're going to go to Share, and then we're going to go to More at the bottom here. And there is an option in these share buttons to copy to clipboard. I'm going to hit copy to clipboard. It will then ask me which page, and I know that it's page 11, so that's the one I want to copy. And then I'm going to click copy to clipboard. It does its thing, and it says success. Your design has been copied to clipboard. Now all that means is that this whole design is now copied to the clipboard almost as an image in its own. So if I just go to this previous slide and hit Control V or paste, it will paste in that slide from the clipboard. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it till it's almost off the page, and I'm going to enlarge it so that it's the correct size. Now essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to create something that looks like this slide pops in and then disappears again, almost as if it's teasing that there is another slide. To make it easier to create the animation part for this, I'm going to just add a little handle to this image, and I'm going to do that by hitting R for rectangle. I'm going to put a rectangle alongside it, click on both of them, and group. So now that is a group including this little handle. And that just means that I can move this to the end of the page without losing that grouping, because when I click on it, I can pull both of those back into this page. And the reason that I want to do that is because I am now going to add an animation to this group. I'm going to do that by going to Animate, Create an Animation, and this will give me the option to select and drag an element to create the animation. I'm now going to go back to the group. I'm going to click the Shift key so that I can keep this in a straight line, and I'm going to click and drag this whole group in and out a few times, and then let go. And you'll see that's the animation I have created. The last thing I'm going to do is make sure I'm clicked on the group and then click on that rectangle. And then I'm going to change the transparency of that rectangle down to maybe 1%, just in case. And now, if I go back to the beginning of this and hit play, you'll see that that animation is the next slide peeking in, and then when people have seen it, they will slide to that slide. And that's just a really clever way of intriguing people as to what's coming next. And it's particularly good for the first slide in a carousel, so that people know that there is something behind it and they don't scroll too quickly without realizing. Number 5 is another interesting way for us to use images in a carousel, but adding a bit of movement and adding some dynamism to the images rather than just having static images. So for this one, I've created a plain slide, and I've got some text on here called the Summer Collection. And this is just going to be assuming that I have some products or something that I want to showcase. I'm going to go to Elements. I'm going to scroll down to my frames at the bottom here, towards the bottom. I'm going to go to See All, and I'm just going to bring in this curved corner frame. I'm going to make it a little bit longer, so it's got more of a kind of portrait size. And then I'm going to go to the corner rounding and make them a little bigger, so that it's just a little more interesting than a normal rectangle. I'm going to just click on that, and I'm going to bring it to the top of the layers so that it's actually above the text. And then I'm going to add a border to it just to add a little bit of differentiation between it and the background. And now I'm going to click and drag in an image of a product or a person or anything that I want to feature. So I'm going to go to Photos and go to my recently used, because I was looking at these ceramic photos, and I'm just going to bring them in. Let's say I'm advertising for a short course on how to create beautiful pottery. So I'm going to just click and drag this in. And then once I've done that, I'm just going to copy and paste the whole frame and replace the image. And I'm going to do that 5 times. Now that I've got all of those in, I can then click on them and select them all in my layers here, go to Arrange, and then I can center them and align them in the middle so they're all in the same space. But now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to use the Position and Layers tool, and I'm going to change each one a little. So for the bottom one, I'm going to rotate and move it down a little. The next one, I'm going to rotate in the other direction and move a little to the left and up, and carry that on until they are all a little sort of haphazardly scattered on the page. Now we're going to add some movement. We're just going to copy and paste this whole slide, and we're going to take the first image and we're going to move it off the page. And all I'm going to do is change the angle of it and move it to the top so that it's off the page, but you can see I've got the handle on there so that it will still work with a match and move transition. Now I'm going to repeat that process for all of the images until only the last one is left. And when we've got the final image, all we're going to do is we are then going to move it up, and we're going to go to the Position and Overlapping tools, and we're going to move the text boxes down, and that will be our final animation. Now if we go to the beginning of this, you can adjust the timings, but we can just have a really cool animation with images that slowly reveal, showing each of these important images, and then finally the text reveals itself. There you go, folks, 5 ideas that you can use for your carousels to add interest through movement and motion and video. I hope this has been helpful. I'd love to see you try some of this out. Please let me know how it works for you, and have a fabulous week.